All right, we're here with the second video today. We're going to start covering the protesting and rioting that's happening across the country. The rioting is usually pretty much happening in Portland and D.C., while the protesting from the right is happening in Arizona and Pennsylvania. So we'll get into it. Up first from Fox News, live updates. National Guard activated after widespread violence in Portland. NYPD arrests after 50 protesters. About 50 protesters. The Oregon National Guard was activated in Portland, Oregon on Wednesday night in response to widespread violence in the city, authorities said. Yeah, a lot of businesses got smashed up. Portland police declared a riot amid a wave of destruction in the city that saw people smash storefront windows of local businesses in the downtown area. At least 11 rioters were arrested. Videos shared to social media of demonstrations in New York City showed police and activists in heated confrontations. The NYPD announced about 50 arrests related to the protests. Police confiscated several weapons, including knives, a stun gun, and explosives. Meanwhile, supporters of President Trump gathered at the Maricopa County Recorder's office located outside of Phoenix. There, some of the demonstrators were heard shouting, "Count those votes." That's in response to a bunch of votes being denied because they were told, Sharpies were okay, and then apparently Sharpies aren't okay. But they still try to claim that Sharpies are okay, even though their votes aren't being counted. So, which is it? Sheriff's deputies were guarding both the outside of the building and the counting inside, reports said. A few of the protesters carried assault-style rifles. Apparently, it was only one person, who carried an assault-style rifle. And the organizer to the event, Cernovich, said he didn't want anyone there, open carry. That's not what this is about. You don't need to bring your guns to this. So, Cernovich is calling, this guy a Fed. He was a plant just to try to drum up some sort of, negative response because they were apparently just, chanting, being polite. They were staying outside. They're not trying to push their way in or anything. And Cernovich didn't even realize any of this until pretty much after the event was over. I guess the guy had just basically walked up to media and then started talking to them. So, I think the media just wanted something to report on about it. Here we got from The Blaze. Oregon governor finally activates National Guard to counter violent riots in Portland. After months of near nightly riots, the Oregon governor finally calls in the National Guard. Yeah, it only took, 4 or 5 months to finally have the National Guard called in. So it's, I guess, better late than never. We got from Andy No, NYC, far-left protester calls an... Let me restart that. Far-left protester calls an officer a fascist and spits in his eyes. They weren't going to... he was standing there all fine, allowing them to just scream in his face, and it wasn't until she literally spits in his eyes that he's like, all right, that's my justification now. You can't just assault someone with a spit. Especially when we're in a pandemic, right? That's biological warfare. So, yeah, she got arrested. She got taken to the ground. That officer, as soon as he got spit on, he was done with her. He was done. He arrested her. Here we've got Detroit election officials are currently refusing to let the public observe the counting process at the TCF Center. They have padlocked the doors. Says this is a disgrace to the democratic process. The crowd is now chanting, "Let us in," as many Republican poll challengers are still locked outside. So, they're denying Republican poll watchers from actually watching this happen. They're boarding up the windows, and people are not happy. They're not being transparent in the slightest, and people aren't going to stand up for that. You guys claimed you wanted pure transparency, and then you start boarding up these windows, and yeah, to deny people from actually watching, yeah, it's not very transparent, is it? Here we got from Brendan Gutenschwager. Opposing groups are getting into heated exchanges outside TCF Center in Detroit. I guess he was pretty much like saying, you don't know what our people are going through, and blah blah blah. And then a bunch of black people come up and they're like trying to put him into his place. He's just not really having it, really. We've got from Kitty Shackelford. I'm pretty much just on his Twitter right here because he's covering pretty much all the protests, the rioting that's been going on. It's been updated a bit with more. So, I had it up there, you know, with some of the stuff. Here we've got, they're chanting "No USA" at all, Denver, Colorado. We were seeing banners with basically saying they hate America. It's just, it wasn't about Biden. It's basically about the destruction of America. I guess this video is going around. There's a video going around from the left saying just a cop using his club on a civilian vehicle. Apparently, it's a protest mob minivan which was driving, got footage and using as a shield storage for weapons and supplies, and as to hinder normal vehicle traffic. As much as this Antifa would like this to be a civilian van, it is not. So, I mean, we've got, it's looking sketchy. We've got them yelling at DHS here. They're basically saying, "Oh, we'll fight you. Let's fight you. Take your suit off and I'll fight you." It's like, what? I want to get to the one. Where's that banner? Now that everything decided to change, you know, I have to now hit all of these where to say view just to get it to show up, because Twitter's just going ham right now, trying to basically flag absolutely everything that's going on. A bunch of Trump tweets are being flagged. But, I mean, I'd recommend just going to, you know, Kitty Shackleford's Twitter. You can start to see a ton of videos. Pretty much everywhere. So, I'd recommend it. Let's see. We got from Andy Noah. This is the one I really wanted. One of the banners carried at last night's Portland Antifa protest turned riot. Photo, Dave Killen, Oregonian. You can see we don't want Biden. We want revenge. For police murders, imperialist wars, and fascist massacres. I mean, I can pretty much, I mean, we can agree on that to an extent. Once you start, you know, rioting and destroying public property and destroying private property, you know, minority-owned businesses, then you've completely lost your argument at that point. I mean, we could talk and we can agree on some of this stuff. We don't want imperialistic wars. Trump stopped that. We haven't been in war for decades now, or we haven't been in war over the last, you know, couple of years after being in wars for decades and decades and decades. We kept going into more and more war. And that was under Obama/Biden. Do you really think that if you bring Biden in, the wars will stop? No, he's going to go back into war. The peace agreements that Trump has been fostering are going to completely fall apart, and we'll just end up going back into more and more war, and nobody wants that. Nobody. Here we got from Vice being biased as all hell. Confused Trump supporters can't decide whether to stop the count or count every vote. I mean, if they actually try to figure out any sort of, you know, context for this stuff, they try to just say, "Oh, they're being idiots because they don't know what they really want." But I think you're really being an idiot because you don't know what they want. The stop the count is to stop the count and allow poll watchers to actually watch in Pennsylvania because they're being and in Michigan because they're being denied. And count every vote is in Arizona because people's votes aren't being counted because they said, you know, a Sharpie was able to be used. And then they realized when their vote wasn't counted that the Sharpie made it invalid. So, okay then. I mean, like, which is it? You're going to say the Sharpie's okay, but then when they use it and they get denied? Yeah, that's on the people who said the Sharpie was okay. Here we got from Cernovich. Last night at a rally I organized, a guy who did not look like one of mine said, "We're here to use the second to protect the first." I said, "We are here to protect the first and to knock the gun talk off." He kept pushing the issue in an inauthentic way, almost certainly a Fed plant. I mean, it could be a Fed plant. It could just be someone random trying to do this. I mean, but he said he organized it. He didn't want it. This is about the First Amendment. This is freedom of speech. This is about the rights of the people and the election process and voting. And it's not about the guns. And that's what the media then wants to try to claim, is that, oh, they were touting guns and they were intimidating people with their guns and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, they aren't. They're being peaceful. They're They're not trying to charge into these buildings to demand this stuff happening. No, they're sitting outside chanting and doing an actual peaceful protest, unlike the left, where while they march, they completely smash up windows, they spray paint everywhere, they apparently, there's bricks being laid out, ahead of time, and yeah, it's which side do you want to be on? The one that is actually peaceful, that just wants this to actually go in a transparent way, or do you want the people that just want revenge, apparently? Like this. They don't want Biden, they just want revenge, destruction. They want to be in charge, and they want to have the power over all the citizens of America. We also then got from Cernovich, wrong, after I left an end of rally, a guy apparently showed up with an AR-15 and full mag carrier. He walked up right to media area, not one of my guys, total plant. This isn't complicated. This was a response to, from the last tweet. I mean, he can claim it's a plan. I mean, we don't know necessarily for sure, but I mean, I'm not going to rule it out. I'm not going to rule it in either. So it's up for grabs. You never know. I'll give it that. But, he said it's not about the second. He didn't want any of the guns there. And that's what the media then wants to blast is, they had guns there and they're intimidating and blah, 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 blah. So I'm tired of the media. Completely tired of them. Because I was going through all the websites today, and none of them talk about the protests. None of them really talk about the rioting that's now happening. None of them's talking about the very, very suspicious behavior that is happening within Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Arizona, Nevada, Georgia, too. It's all a mess. It's all a mess, and it's only going to get worse. I guarantee you they'll probably rule for a Trump win when it goes to the courts, and we're going to have a civil war on our hands. We're going to have conflict. It's what seems like it's going to happen. Because, as we see from the left, they don't want Biden. They don't want Trump. They just want revenge and nothing else. So Don't trust Biden to stop these riots, because they're even claiming it's not going to happen. That Biden will not stop it, and they just want revenge. And they'll do it with armed conflict, I guess, if they have to. I'll leave it there. I'll keep up to date with, everything that's happening on both the right and the left tomorrow. We'll see what happens. I'll see you then. Have a good one.